expecting a slightly different crowd today. From what Greg described previously, I was thinking more than half the room would be old businessmen, like running businesses and like don't have no clue about the current landscape of CSR and about impact, what that means. So I think I might scrap most of what the points I have prepared. And well, I'll ask a question to you guys. What do you guys think CSR is about? What do you guys think CSR is about? I mean, Greg has already primed you guys out with some really great examples. Oh, where do you think it came from? How about this? Where do you think it came from, if you think back a little bit, as a practice? I should mention that CSR is like a Western term. Was it from UK or somewhere in Europe?
Probably Americans.
Yeah, probably Americans actually. But we had practiced other forms of doing good. And anybody want to say something, contribute an idea, a thought?
Is anyone here from ACS? No? Yes?
Oh, yes.
Do you know anything about the names of the different houses? I came from ACS, right? I was from TKK, at least in one of the parts. Do you know anything about the people behind these names of these houses? I suppose other schools have houses too. TKK, anyone?
They're all philanthropists and businessmen.
Who are TKK?
Yay!
Yay! Okay, so actually Singapore, our history, right, we have a long history of philanthropy and doing good. And I just read out on Tan Kaki together with Sean. And we found out that he created he did a lot of stuff in his lifetime, including he setting up Tao Nan, Ai Tong, Nanqiao Girls, Chong Hock Girls, I don't even know the school. He also founded Nanyang Chinese High School when it was still in Neelan Road, if you guys know. I didn't. And he also donated a lot of money to ACS and Raffles College, but Raffles College became the University of Malaya, which then became NUS. So it's not RJ. That's what I thought it was. And his business, did you know what businesses he ran? What his empire was? Okay, give a guess lah, just shout out some like industries.
Sugar.
Actually sugar wasn't one of them. But close.
Rubber.
Rice.
Rubber, yes, rice, yes.
Tea.
Tea, I don't think so. Yeah. But okay, so he had rubber plantations, manufacturing, sawmills, canneries, pineapple stuff, biscuits, real estate, import, export. Ocean transport, rice trading, and he also founded a newspaper called Nanyang Xiangbao. I had no idea. So for our forefathers, philanthropy was a natural thing to do as business people who had become successful, and they believed it was good to give back just because actually, and you can trace this to Confucian values, but let's not go there. So for us actually, CSR is not something that's introduced from the West. It's actually something that is very indigenous to our culture, and now we are finding ways, like with this whole versioning of an industry around CSR, we're finding ways to do it in strategic ways, smart ways, and in ways that can be measurable, right? I mean, this whole move of, it's a slightly positivist way of thinking, but it's how can you, it's from an analyst perspective, how can you take the money and have most bang for buck? And that's kind of a big part of the entire industry. So now we're asking questions about what does it mean to make the most impact, and what is most meaningful, what is most strategic for any business. And actually Greg already revealed the most important point that I personally believe, which is for businesses to contribute where they do best, like what they do best. So I want to give maybe just 2 examples that are, okay, one is overseas and one is Singaporean. So the first example is Ben & Jerry's. How much do you know about them?
I like it.
Did I speak?
Yeah, it's nice cream. So for Ben and Jerry's, I actually visited them on, not related to this today, a few years ago on this State Department sponsored trip, yay. And they showed how they actually, their entire supply chain is based on like ethical sourcing, fair trade, fair trade raw materials. And they even pioneered something that didn't exist at the time, which is called sustainable agriculture. Because all that wonderful milk, it comes from cows, and a lot of the way cows were bred was there's a lot of nitrates and sulfurs and all kind of bad stuff that was bad for the environment. So they actually changed the way that they reared their cattle, and nowadays it's called sustainable agriculture, but their philosophy was to mimic the way that ecology works and use your farming, reflect your farming methods upon those kind of ecological principles, so everything cycles back. So, and the reason why this even came about is because Ben and Jerry, they had very deep beliefs about what a business should do. And I'm going to turn to Sean for a quote. Okay, never mind. I'll just dig it up. So there's a quote from the current CEO. Okay, I'll share that later actually. So Ben and Jerry, when they started the company, what I learned was they believe that a business should exist not just to earn money, but also to contribute to the community where it's part of. And so right from the start, their employment practices, they made sure everyone had a fair wage, and I think there was a ratio that Ben and Jerry actually set, which is no one's salaries will be at a discrepancy. 42?
I think it was 42 times. So like
not less, I thought it was.
I think it was 42, but the exact ratio isn't as important as the story.
Yeah.
So the story goes, yeah, that's not tangled in electricity. So the story goes that they cared a lot about income discrepancy between the top level executives and the guy who packs boxes at the factories.
It's a great narrative around income inequality.
Exactly. So when Ben and Jerry's was CEO, he put in this rule saying that the top paid executive cannot be paid more than 42 times the amount that the lowest paid person makes. I don't know whether that number is exactly right, but that's the idea. There was a direct ratio. It worked for many years until he decided to step down as CEO, and when they were looking for someone to take his place, they couldn't find anyone who was willing to stick with the same ratio. So I'm just telling you that it's not all roses, right? Like there are techniques that they tried that didn't work perfectly, but they did try nonetheless.
Yeah. So thanks for that.
Yes.
And so in addition to that, they also try to employ as much locally as they can, and they have a program where they actually identify certain employees who could receive more help, and I think this is the right company. And they actually say, okay, does anyone want to contribute to, say, Marianne's kids' school fund if they're from low-income backgrounds? So this fostered a kind of culture within the company where everyone feels like they have a stake in the social good that the company makes. And they translate this explicitly as well. So all employees of Ben & Jerry's have stock options. I didn't know that. And yeah, so everyone is actually vested. So the idea of linked prosperity is they're actually walking the talk. So then, okay, I'll share a quote from the current CEO, who is a former Unilever executive, as he got brought up, but it's someone who believes in their values, which is, change is a wonderful thing. The world needs dramatic change to address the social and environmental challenges we are facing. Values-led businesses can play a critical role in driving that positive change. We need to lead by example and prove to the world that this is the best way to run a business. Historically, this company has been and must continue to be a pioneer to continually challenge how business can be a force for good and address inequities inherent in global business. So for a CEO of a big company, it's quite a politically significant statement, because then what does that mean about business's role in helping to reduce rather than contribute to inequality or inequities in society? So this actually goes way beyond CSR, but they also have a CSR, Ben & Jerry's Foundation, which funds various community initiatives. But what I wanted to sort of challenge you guys with is, it's not just about putting aside a pocket of a sliver of the profits to fund community initiatives, but it goes deeper than that, to supply chains and to what companies can do, and most deeply to values. So, should I talk about one more? Okay lah, I'll give another example that actually impacts us.
Why don't you ask them a question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You guys are students, right? You get asked questions all the time.
Are you guys all students?
No?
All of us.
Hey, you guys weren't students. You used to be students quite recently, right? You're used to questions. What did you think of the story that she just told you? Boring? Irrelevant?
Did you know most of that? Those facts about Ben & Jerry's?
Parts of it.
Parts of it.
Parts of it.
I mean, I guess the reason why Bern's talking a lot right now is that she just wanted to give like some, I don't know, a medium to trigger discussion. Because we're here today. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. You're all sitting like this. Questions are the best ways to trigger discussion.
So I have a question. What's the whole point? The whole point of your Ben & Jerry's thing? You said they gave stock options. They treated their cows well.
And their people and their employees.
Should be okay.
Both the people and their cows.
The aim was 44 times for the CEO, but they couldn't get the CEO after that. So what is the core
What's the point of the
learning of it? Like what can be done, what cannot be done? The pay thing, I think, is not sustainable. Treating the cows well, that's like secondary to. Okay, I'll give you an example of dairy operations in Indonesia. You first have to produce milk for the people before you think about the cow. And Australia actually banned cow exports to Indonesia because they were mistreating the cows. And that led to shortages of dairy in Indonesia.
So Australia banned
Australia
exports
banned the exports of cows to Indonesia. No, so they banned the
exports
cows.
of their cows to Indonesia because they were buying cows from
And both
them.
countries suffered.
Okay.
So, so what's the key learning of your Ben & Jerry's point? Is it?
Well, I highlighted it as an exemplary example of what that kind of values, those kind of beliefs about business can translate into business activities. I think it's a good point you raised about not being able to find a CEO who would accept that salary. I think that's a reflection of maybe current day expectations. And I wonder whether we will come to a time in some future where people see business differently, and that your role at the helm of a big company is actually to generate something of positive value.
But actually, there's something to say this, which is you mentioned Tan Kaki.
Yeah.
But he gave in his personal capacity. So he probably earned a lot of money from his company, and then he gave as a philanthropist, as a personal contribution.
And that's how many philanthropists of that time.
So my question is, why not have more philanthropy? Most people agree with that. But corporate donations, why?
Well, I think it's actually part of a landscape. So I think ideally people who feel so inclined, who have the means, of course, if there's something that they believe in, they should act on it.
If you want me to just
Yeah.
I think in Singapore, we all know the social divide between the rich and poor is getting wider and wider. If companies do not give back, I think what is going to happen is that employees, lay people, common people, workers will think that, oh, my company is in a way milking me, taking advantage. Okay, they think that's salary, but if the CSR philosophy is not ingrained in the company's business, the practices, what happens is the people may then think that, oh, the company takes advantage of me and doesn't treat me well enough. One, and then, oh, the rich are getting richer, the poor getting poorer. So I think where therein lies, we cannot just depend on a few of these, philanthropies to give back. And there is increasingly a role. I mean, you cannot, for example, CSR encompasses a very wide scope, which includes environment, being responsible to the environment. You cannot just expect, just a few big philanthropies and their related companies to just do good. And the rest of the world is harming the environment. So, you cannot just be depending on a small group of people just to do this part.
So now you're changing the environment?
No, I'm not changing the environment, but CSR encompasses. But what I'm saying is that if companies don't realize its role in giving back, in doing something, then we will just be left to a small group of people, and is that sufficient? In Singapore, in Singapore, the government is doing a lot, which I'm not sure whether it's a good thing, to be very honest with you, because the government there, the companies there think, never mind, leave that to the government to do. We talk about taking care of the poor, never mind, there's a workfare, scheme that will take care of that. But what if one fine day the needs exceed what the government has? Have you ever thought about that? So, and then what will happen then? So that's why I'm trying to explain to you why there's a need for companies all the companies to come on board and not just leave it to the rich, leave it to those who can afford to give. And I'm citing the environment as an example. So we must all pull together, we must all put an effort into doing this together, and not just leave it to some people. Who is it? Some people, some people will think that it's the government, some people will think that leave it to the rich. So everybody has a part to play.
Talk about identifying beneficiaries. So you're mainly talking about the urban poor, right?
No.
So you're not.
No, we don't. So that was a project that we did
we're going to
on
work
interdimensional
with
poverty. Yeah, but what we do is system dynamics mapping. So so in the case of a struggling neighborhood, how does education link with employment, link with social connectedness, link with financial empowerment, link with self-belief, and then we identify the most root cause